I think, as I said, that was the first time this season of going 5 wins, domestic wins in a row. You need to go 15 domestic wins in a row in Scotland. You can't go 5 and then fall flat in your face. And this is now repeating 3 or 4 times through this. They win 3 or 4 domestic games, having a good result in Europe, fall flat in their face somewhere. Starts again, and it starts to the kind of optimism rises again, and he thinks that he's world beater again, flat in his face. So we're now seeing a pattern. And listen, I know the big rebuild is what it's described as, right? And they say, well, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's a rebuild. There's bumps in the road, and there's losing at home in the cup to Queen's Park. That's falling down a manhole. That's not a bump in the road.
That's exactly. He's accident prone. He's genuinely accident prone.
Yeah,
it's like the comedy injury. You're right. It's falling down manholes. It's wheels coming flying off the car. It's all these comedy moments. He's just completely accident prone as a manager.
It's the terms of the big rebuild. You can forgive dropping points somewhere against Aberdeen or against St Mirren, or an occasional i.e. a little bump in the road, but not this. Look at is that 11 games out of 30 domestically this year they failed to win. That's not. It's all right saying it's a development time and it's a rebuild and it's a transitional season. Rangers have still got a huge budget and top. The team they put out on Sunday wasn't a scratch. Wasn't a reserve team. On Sunday, there's multi-million pound signings in that team. They should have more than enough to deal with that cup tie. When you look at, the previous day, I don't want to draw comparisons with Celtic. They're different. They're operating different levels financially at the moment. Celtic had 9 changes and go and clatter Wraith Rovers at the park the night before. Rangers should still be able to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Even during a rebuild. So these are just excuses now.
Yeah, and Mick, you've also got to remember, see, there are clubs all across Scotland's top flight that effectively have to do a rebuild every summer. Because they lose so many players, because of the way that they can, they have to beg, borrow and steal to get budgets together. And so there's managers up and down the land that face similar sort of transitional summers most years. And they still keep them, they still need to be competitive out there. And you're absolutely right. The finances that are involved in this, Mick, means that okay, have a transitional season. What does that mean? That means you might struggle in your big games against Celtic. But see, the rest of them, you're right, Mike. There should be no excuse.
No.
And if you win the rest of your games, then you'll stay competitive in the league anyway.
Yeah. And by the way, when do they see these transitional seasons? When do you ever see someone who's successful go, well, that season's a stinker, but I get through that and now we're here? So it's one of these great big excuses that are thrown out. It's a season of transition and all that stuff. When have you ever seen a football team say, we've finished the transition, we're now fully built? When has a football team ever fully built? It's a complete and utter fallacy. The teams are constantly evolving all the time. You still need to buy good players, get them in the team and get them playing, get them winning games.
That's right, just win games. That's what you need to do.
Iggerman is talked about as being a great development player. And by the way, I think he is a cracking player. I think he will go on and be a top player eventually if he's handled properly. Still costs £1.5 million, which is the budget of half the league, by the way, for a year. Motherwell, St Mirren, St Johnstone, Ross County, they're lucky to get £1 million budget a year. Never mind one developmental player. So they can spare us that nonsense as well. It's an excuse. It's another excuse.
The talk in the chat, guys. I don't know if is it too early to turn our attention to who might replace him? Keith, a lot of people here, if they did sack Clement, which manager would be daft enough to take the job with such a limited budget and dwindling squad? And Alan asking Dennis asking if you're going to be promoting McInnes again. He says the fans don't want him. Is it too early to be looking and going, look, who could replace him?
Yeah.
Okay.
On account of the fact that clearly the Rangers board don't have an appetite to make that change just now. If they did have the appetite, it would have been done last night or this morning. The fact that they're sitting there in deafening silence more than 24 hours later tells you they ain't ready to make the change. Now, it will be interesting to see how the fans respond to that, because I think there's a sufficient level of unrest now that the fans won't be prepared to just sit quietly and accept a board adopting the ostrich position. That's not going to wash, and I would expect that there'll be an element of these fans that fully intend to get their point across quite emphatically when they follow their team through to Edinburgh. That's the next game, isn't it now? Tynecastle.
Yep.
I don't think they'll miss the target the way that the players have.
Rebel in the comment section saying it's Celtic v Queen's Park in the quarters, it's in the Stars. And we should point out the quarter-final draws later on tonight after St Mirren v Hearts. Mick, who do you see getting through in that one? And it does look like it's Celtic's treble to throw away.
Well, you wouldn't bet against that at the moment, but listen, St Mirren has a cracking tie, isn't it? I mean, it's St Mirren maybe a wee bit rocky of late. Hearts have come into a game, having been hopeless for most of the season. Made some good signings, so I think Hearts have enough to get through that one. I think, and they looked as though they're back in business. Hearts, and so they've done some good transfers in the last month or so. So yeah, they're in decent shape. So I think Hearts will be the next one into the hat. But yeah, Celtic, listen, you can't. It's hard to see past them, isn't it, for the cup now? I mean, Rangers. The funny thing, I mean, these one-off games in the cup final, the League Cup final, and the game at Ibrox, Rangers played really well, and you think they're probably the only ones that could conceivably maybe stop Celtic. But then again, it's a cup final or a cup semi-final or a cup quarter final might be a pressurised environment again. So you couldn't expect anything. You couldn't be hanging hat on any of it. So yeah, it's it looks as though the path's been cleared now for Celtic, doesn't it?
The path's been clear for some time. Obviously, the one element of doubt for Celtic was, will they, encounter a difficulty in the Scottish Cup? That's not to say it's going to be easy from here on in, but they go into the quarterfinals as red-hot favourites. And I think if we're all being realistic about it, it's very unlikely that anybody's going to stop Celtic. This will be another treble. And they just keep rattling them off. It's an extraordinary period of monopolising the silverware and dominating the domestic scene. Extraordinary period. And it shows no sign of stopping. And this is, when you're looking at the mess that Rangers are getting themselves into, that club is not fit for purpose in terms of offering up genuine level of competition to Celtic right now. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's going to need, a complete reboot from the top down.